Hello, happy October. This is my favorite month of the year. I fucking love October. Where we've got the orange lighting going on. I'm wearing my Switzerland hoodie. Yeah, that's Switzerland. I also have some heated up apple cider with cinnamon and Southern Comfort in my mug. Cheers. Last night I stayed up till 6 a.m. watching this movie and then also writing this script. Yeah, so October is one of my favorite months. It's like my excuse to catch up on all the horror movies I missed throughout the year. I mean, it's like I'm gearing up for Halloween. So yeah, I watched The Substance and I took notes.
Okay, last time. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
I've always loved horror as a social commentary, and body horror is great at depicting fears and about a changing society. For example, I love Japan's Pulse, which was right before Y2K, and I love Saw from like 9/11 era. The Substance uses body horror to tell a story highlighting the common fear around aging, especially in the social media age, and how it is highlighted in our society via casual misogyny. With Ozempic and other semi-glutides on the rise, and self-help gurus constantly selling us something in an attempt to halt the unstoppable process of aging, it is no surprise that The Substance is making its rounds on social media right now. Okay, first we're gonna do a little summary. If you haven't seen this movie, everybody's talking about it. I pirated it because I'm a bad person. It is available online in HD, not just as cam. You can find it. So, The Substance follows Elizabeth Sparkle, who is like a middle-aged actress. She's played by Demi Moore, who is very fine. But it's her 50th birthday and she's told that she will be kicked from her exercise show. Following the news, she gets in a car accident, prompting a hospital visit, where she is given a phone number by a young nurse along with a note that says that it changed his life and a flash drive. Elizabeth watches the flash drive, and she eventually calls the number and picks up The Substance. She then injects herself with it, and a younger version of herself, her back, like she passes out, her back rips down the center, like where the spine is, and Margaret Qualley crawls out of it. So there are rules with The Substance. So they are one person. They're just split between two bodies. So every 7 days, she has to switch back and forth between the bodies, as well as feed the unconscious version and stabilize the conscious version with an injection. The younger version takes the name Sue, and she auditions for the show spot that Elizabeth was kicked from, and Sue gets greedy and begins to spend more time conscious, leading to Elizabeth to rapidly age. So, first, we're going to talk about the positives, right? I have good things to say and I have bad things to say, so we're going to start with the good things. The effects were amazing. I can't even lie. There's this, when she injects the substance, the iris like splits. In the beginning of the movie, it starts with an egg yolk, and they inject the egg yolk with the substance, and the egg yolk splits. When Elizabeth takes it, her iris splits into two, and it's like really neat the way that they use the effects to kind of like, you know, get across what they were saying. And that was the first time that I really noticed like how well done. Like that was the first time that I noted it. I have zero criticisms on the effects. Very well done and disgusting. A great example of what a big budget can get you gore-wise. This is gonna be a spoiler review. I was not expecting a clone of a clone. I don't know if I'm slow. I thought that the entire end sequence was really well done, where her teeth are falling off and her nails are falling and her ears coming off. I thought that was really well done. I personally loved the New Year's performance with the arms flying off and the blood spraying everywhere. I thought it was camp and fun. I love horror movies that like don't take themselves seriously. as it was playing. I was like, this is so much fun. Like, another thing that I noted was that I did find the scene with the other tenant interesting. There's a scene where Sue is doing work in her house like all throughout the night, and her neighbor, thinking that it's Elizabeth, comes by and is like knocking and screaming. And when Sue opens the door and she's there, he's like, oh, I didn't realize that you live here now. Like, oh, like, what the fuck? Like, he takes it back very quick, but he was saying very mean things, banging on the door, until he saw how hot she was, and he all took it back. And then there's also a scene where Sue is hooking up with a guy, and he leaves his motorcycle, and the next day, Elizabeth is in the body, and the guy comes by, and Elizabeth is outside, and the guy is like yelling and screaming at her and treating her like shit. And I thought it was very interesting how the film shows like pretty privilege, and the difference between how like Elizabeth and Sue are treated by men. We see this with like the neighbor, the producer, and then also the guy that they're hooking up with. And then I kind of was on the fence about this. So Demi Moore looks phenomenal, right? Like, she looks great. So on one hand, it does kind of make her breakdowns look a little ridiculous because like she is like super hot. But I think it also kind of adds to it because it shows it doesn't matter how conventionally attractive you are, there is still like a big fear around aging. So it's kind of like, I kind of went back and forth about that one, whether I wanted to put it as a negative or a positive. Okay, next I wanted to talk about the star. In the beginning of the film, Elizabeth gets like a Hollywood star. When the star is first put in, people are walking around it, they're taking pictures of it. But eventually throughout time, the star is like, it's stomped all over and it's dirty, and at the end of that sequence, a guy drops food onto it and it like splatters with ketchup. Compared to at the end of the film, basically, when Sue clones herself, it creates this like monster. And the monster has Elizabeth's face attached to its back. So there's this big freak out, and the monster ends up dragging Elizabeth's face onto the star, like just her face, and it stains it red just like the ketchup at the beginning. So I kind of felt that this was like a good physical representation of how Hollywood treats women, as well as like foreshadowing what's about to happen to Elizabeth. And then I also wanted to talk about mental health. A common thing throughout the film is, so I thought it was spot on the way that Elizabeth and Sue refer to the other sides of themselves as this like complete separate entity. If the film is a metaphor for body dysmorphia and addiction, it is spot on with this. People tend to refer to their bodies or mental illnesses as separate entities rather than just accepting that they are a part of them. Both Sue and Elizabeth try to kill the other part at some point. They both view that part of them as a problem, and they want to kill it or cut it off rather than just accept it. The substance customer service representative having to explain to her that balance is needed to work, but she does not listen, is very ironic. I also think that this kind of highlights the gluttony in Hollywood. So she is given a second chance at life. Like, she's 20 again, she's given, she could, go through life again as a younger person. But because of how selfish Sue is, she behaves selfishly and without thinking about the future, only the present. So she uses and abuses that part of herself until it is barely functioning. And this is all in order to uphold a certain image. And throughout the film, I kept thinking about how dumb she was, but the substance is a drug. So I think it makes sense that her judgment would be clouded. Also, a film about somebody using this responsibly wouldn't be as entertaining. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the negatives. You Are the Matrix was corny as fuck. It was so corny, dude. I rolled my eyes in the back of my head. Also, Sue is a terrible Hollywood name. All the names in the world, and she chose Sue? Fuck off. Also, I get that Margaret Qualley is hot. Like, I understand. I thought that she was hot before this movie came out. The amount of ass shots in this movie is insane. To the point that, so I'm gonna talk about this in a second. There's like 20 different shots of her ass. Like, so much of the movie is just like, look how hot she is. Like, that's a huge motif in the movie. Anyways, so it's very in your face about its messaging. There's no beating around the bush that the movie is talking about how women are treated. But because of this and the constant repetition of these themes, it does kind of treat the viewer like they're stupid at times. But also at the same time, like, Dennis Quaid is a huge Trump supporter, which is the man who plays the producer. So I don't really understand why he was cast in this. If this was, I thought the movie was entertaining. I thought it was funny. I thought it was campy. I thought it was entertaining. But I keep seeing people online talk about how it's this like big feminist like masterpiece. I don't think it is, dog. I do not think it is. I think if it was, they wouldn't have casted a known Trump supporter. And I get it's a satire, but like the point of a satire is to like make fun of somebody. Like, having him cast to play himself, like giving him money for being a sexist piece of shit, doesn't really like. I don't think that's satire at that point. I think that's just like, you know what I mean? Anyways, so a lot of the feminist parts of this movie do fall flat. I actually Googled the director while I was watching the movie. I stopped and I Googled the director and the screenwriter just to make sure, because there was a split second there where I thought the movie was made by a man. Because it was constantly like honing in on the mistreatment of women. Like, it kept doing like the smile, you're so much prettier when you smile, but then it would also like it was critiquing treating women a certain way based on how attractive they are, but then it would also like zoom in on Margaret Qualley's naked or almost naked body and like spend like an unneeded amount of time showing just how like supple her ass was. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't. Anyways, whatever. I'm not a prude, by the way. This isn't coming from a place of being a prude. This is coming from a place of like, you're making a movie about the over-sexualization of women while also overly sexualizing women. It feels a little hypocritical. And I don't know if I would feel that way if the movie didn't blow up the way that it did. But I keep seeing like these edits of like how hot she is. And it's like, you guys fucking missed the point. But I think that the movie also missed the point too. Anyways, whatever. So I also kind of wanted to talk about the pacing. The pacing in this movie is crazy. So other than the opening with the star, you don't really know who Elizabeth is. You just kind of get dropped in. You can kind of infer that she's lonely just because there aren't any other characters around. And on one hand, I do think that the pacing being so quick is kind of like, you know, but also at the same time, this movie is 2.5 hours long. So, you know, if they didn't move that quick, it would probably be 4 hours long. So, I guess they had to do what they had to do. So, another criticism of mine, I made a little paragraph for the main scare factors. There's a lot of food. Like, they regularly use food as kind of like a cop-out to make the audience disgusted, which, like, whatever. But it doesn't really disgust me at all, so I didn't really care. They just kept showing people eating, and I was like, okay, like, this is fine. I didn't really sign up to watch a mukbang, but I guess this is what we're doing now. Needles, also, lots of needles, holy shit. I don't really care about needles. I used to give myself injections, and I'm covered in piercings. I just feel like every single time that a needle was used, it had to be shown on screen, like zoomed in, you know, full, like there was a squelch, you know what I mean? It was very like every single chance to zoom in on a needle was there. And also they like progressively get larger, which kind of cracked me up a little bit. The one that really bothered me was like the huge one that she had to put in the spine. That was nasty. And then I did kind of think it was funny that the movie is kind of set up to be this like commentary on like aging and like how women are treated as they age, but it does kind of use old people's bodies as a way to shock people until the clone of the clone is brought in. The main like, ew, that's disgusting, is from her aging, which is kind of funny to see in a movie that's like supposed to be commentary on that. You're kind of doing exactly what you're trying to make a satire for. So I'm going to talk about references because I do feel like this movie had a lot of references. So first of all, like genre-wise, it does pull from a lot of other body horror films, but in the end, or to the middle to end, it kind of like pulls on like hagsploitation, and like almost doppelganger movies. And then for like specific references, I noticed that I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but in the like the studio, the bathroom and the hallway were very similar to the bathroom and the hallway in The Shining, like color-wise and pattern-wise. And then this was cemented for me after the like the New Year's Eve thing, because at the end of the film, the hallway is like filled with blood, just like The Shining. So I think that was on purpose. Also, Sue shutting the bathroom door on Elizabeth's like unconscious body did kind of feel like the game over in Saw. I don't think that was on purpose. It just made me laugh. She is in a Cinderella gown for the New Year's performance, so kind of watching her like she's literally falling apart. It like her, you know, her teeth and everything is falling out, and she's in this big gown and she's trying to rush to get home before like her entire body like explodes. I thought that was very interesting. And then there is a scene where the clone of the clone is born, and it goes up to the studio, and as it's walking in, everybody's clapping and it's like, we love you. And it made me think of the Evangelion final. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it made me think of it.
Maybe I could love myself. Maybe my life would have a greater value. That's right. I am no more or less than myself. I am me. I want to be myself. I want to continue existing in this world. My life is worth living here.
Congratulations! Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations! Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
Congratulations!
And then also the ending, it did kind of have Carrie vibes a little bit, like when the blood is like spewing on the audience and everything. But yeah, my final thoughts on The Substance. I thought it was a good like popcorn movie. I do not think that I would take it seriously as like a feminist film. I'm sorry. If you are like there's different types of feminism too, so like just because this didn't really feel like, this doesn't feel like feminism that would apply to me, doesn't mean that it wouldn't apply to somebody else. I'm just saying that from my point of view, I didn't connect with it as much as I would have if I, you know, related to that kind of feminism more. So yeah, my personal opinion, I respect everybody else's. So it was a good movie, it was very entertaining, but it didn't really do it for me commentary wise. Still cool though, the effects were awesome. So yeah, let me know what you think. I hope you have a nice day, and goodbye.
Ungrateful.
to be alive. But not you. Not anymore. Game over.